Welcome to Daily News Analysis by Shankar IAS Academy. Today's date is 23/7/2024. Displayed here are the list of articles that we are about to discuss today. So without much delay, let's get started. Look at this article. This article reports on the relief felt by the health authorities in Kerala after the serum samples of 11 people who had contact with the 15-year-old boy who died of Nipah virus tested negative. The contact list has grown to 406 people, with 194 in the high-risk category. The source of infection is suspected to be a hog plum eaten by a boy from a bat-infested area. This is the crux of this article given here. In this backdrop, let us revise about Nipah virus from prelims perspective. See, Nipah virus is a zoonotic virus. It is transmitted from animals to human. The organism that causes Nipah virus, encephalitis, is an RNA or ribonucleic acid virus of the family Paramyxoviridae, genus Henipavirus, and is closely related to Hendra virus. See, Hendra virus infection is a rare emerging zoonosis that causes severe and often fatal diseases in both infected horses and humans. It first broke out in Malaysia and Singapore in 1998 and 1999. The disease is named after a village in Malaysia, Sungai Nipah, where it was first detected. It first appeared in the domestic pigs and then found among several species of domestic animals, including dogs, cats, goats, horses and sheep. Let's now move on to see the transmission. The disease spread through fruit bats or the flying foxes of the genus Pteropus, who are the natural reservoir host of the Nipah and Hendra viruses. The virus is present in the bat urine and potentially bat feces, saliva and birthing fluids. There is no apparent disease in the fruit bats, but it can be transmitted from bats to humans. Nipah virus can also be transmitted through contaminated food or directly between people through physical contact. All this means human-to-human transmission is very possible. The virus can also cause severe diseases in animals such as pigs, resulting in significant economic losses for farmers. Although Nipah virus has caused only a few known outbreaks in Asia, it infects a wide range of animals and causes severe disease and death in people. Let's now move on to see the symptoms. The human infection presents as an encephalitic syndrome marked by fever, headache, drowsiness, disorientation, mental confusion, coma and potentially death. Let's now see the prevention. See, currently there is no vaccine for both humans and animals. Intensive supportive care is given to humans infected by Nipah virus. Nipah virus infections can be prevented by washing the fruits thoroughly and peeling them before consumption, since the fruit might be contaminated with urine or saliva from the infected fruit bats. Also, the fruit with signs of bat bites should be discarded. If an outbreak is suspected, the animal premises should be quarantined immediately. Culling of infected animals with close supervision of burial or incineration of carcasses may be necessary to reduce the risk of transmission to people. Restricting or banning the movement of animals from infected farms to other areas can reduce the spread of the disease. That's all about the discussion regarding Nipah. See, several questions in UPSC prelims and mains have been asked around the topics of potential viruses and infections and syndromes, and also the preventive care, that is vaccines availability. So please focus on these areas and understand these kinds of topic holistically. With this, let's move on to our next topic. Look at this article. It talks about MGNREGA. See, this is very important from prelims and mains perspective, because many a times questions from MGNREGA and its objective has been directly asked in UPSC prelims in previous years. So without wasting much time, let's get into the detail. See, MGNREGA, that is the National Rural Employment Guarantee Act 2005. It is actually under Ministry of Rural Development. Here we have to note that we might be getting confused whether it is under Ministry of Rural Development or under Panchayat Raj. So please be very clear, it is under Ministry of Rural Development. Let us now move on to see its objective. It provides a legal guarantee for 100 days of employment in a financial year to adult members of any rural household willing to do unskilled manual work. It also provides a minimum statutory wage as mentioned under Wages Act of 1948. See, this act traces back to the 12th 5-year plan for the inclusive growth by enhancing employment opportunity and livelihood. And also note that the 100 days as guaranteed under this act is not very rigid. It can be also extended in case of an emergency or in case of needs and necessities. For instance, during COVID time, it was extended by the state of Uttarakhand. Let us now see its various provisions. See, there is a scope for decentralized management, as Panchayat Raj institutions like Gram Sabhas or the District Planning Committee for the implementation of the scheme, such as verification of the work done and the issuance of job card and even conducting of social audits, etc. So this brings more accountability at the grassroots level. The next thing is social audits. See, it is an anti-corruption mechanism to check the flow of wages and check on infrastructures, and it also ensures smooth functioning. The wages are given on weekly basis, and also it has a provision that it should not be delayed more than 15 days. And if there is any delay, there will be some compensation given to the workers. Know that at least 1/3 of beneficiary should be women. And more importantly, equal wages will be provided to both men and women, irrespective of the work done. Here, the central government bears 100% of the wage cost and 75% of the material cost of skilled and semi-skilled workers. There is also a grievance redressal mechanism to address all types of conflict arising from this. Let us now see the challenges and various issues under MGNREGA scheme. The biggest challenge in the MGNREGA scheme is the digitalization of wage payments. See, workers with Aadhaar card will only get the wage through direct transfer. Thus, a person without an Aadhaar card won't get their funds transferred even if they have worked. And also, with digitalization, there is also privacy concern. And recently, a scheme of giving attendance with the help of mobile handsets is also creating new constraints because of infrastructural gaps in the rural areas. And there has been several cases of recorded corruption by the officials involved in this scheme, such as manipulation of records, creation of ghost workers, and also delaying in payments, etc. There is also a rising issues of caste-based segregation in the disbursal of wage payments that is often reported from the states like Bihar, Jharkhand, etc. And there is also a rising tensions because of ineffective decentralization, where there is a tension between local officials and also the members of Gram Panchayat, because the district administration has taken over the ownership of the scheme instead of giving accountability and authority to the Gram level. There is also a very little awareness about the working of the scheme to the people in the remote areas. For example, work should be provided within 5 km radius of the village. In case if they are provided beyond 5 km, extra wages of 10% are payable, but many won't even aware of this. And one more bothering issue in the era of digitalization, where the world is moving towards industrial revolution of 4.0, is a lack of digital literacy. See, according to data reportal, around 40% of the population in India can access to the internet. So there is a huge gap in the digital access, more importantly in the rural areas, which hinders the access to the schemes like MGNREGA also. So this covers holistically about the various provisions, objectives, and the challenges there in MGNREGA. Please make a note of it. It is a very important topic for UPSC Prelims 2025 and also Main 2025. With this, let's move on to our next topic for the discussion. Our next topic is going to be about the European Union's Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. Let's see why it is in news. See, recently the Economic Survey highlighted the concerns about protectionism related to Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism proposed by European Union. So, what is that? See, the main purpose of CBAM, that is Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, is to ensure local European Union manufacturers are not at a disadvantage compared to those from the countries with lenient fossil fuel emission norms. See, it aims to create a level playing field between European Union manufacturers who are subjected to stringent carbon emission regulations and non-European Union manufacturers who may operate under lesser stringent environment standards. So let us move on to see its objective. Its main objective is to prevent carbon leakage. See, CBAM seeks to prevent companies from relocating production to the countries with less stringent climate policies, which could undermine the global efforts to reduce carbon emission. Nextly, promoting the global climate action. CBAM encourages non-European Union countries to adopt similar carbon pricing mechanism, promoting uniform global climate policies. Let's now see how the CBAM works actually. CBAM imposes tariffs on the high carbon products imported into European Union like iron, steel, aluminium, cement and fertilizers. The tariffs are based on the carbon emissions of these products. Importers must buy CBAM certificates reflecting the carbon price if the goods were made under European Union carbon rules. It actually starts with the reporting system in 2023 and full implementation will be done by 2026. Let's now move on to see how India will be impacted by CBAM. The Economic Survey noted that CBAM contradicts the Paris Agreement principle of common but differentiated responsibility. According to the Global Trade Research Initiative report, India will be one of the top 8 countries negatively impacted by CBAM. In 2022, around 27% of India's iron and steel and aluminium were exported to European Union. So the key sectors in India, such as steel, are expected to be significantly affected by CBAM. Indian products have a higher carbon intensity due to the dominance of coal in energy consumption. So the Indian exports will be largely affected by the CBAM. And also India's lack of domestic carbon pricing scheme, which puts its export competitiveness at risk, as countries with such system may pay less or be exempt from carbon tax. So let's see what India can go forward from this. The first one is implementing a carbon pricing system can help to align India with the global standards and reduce the impact of CBAM on exports. And also India should increase the share of renewable energy in the power mix to reduce its carbon intensity. In this regard, India has to provide subsidies and tax incentives for the industries to adopt green technology. And more importantly, India should engage in international forums to negotiate fair terms under CBAM and ensure recognition of India's efforts towards climate change mitigation. That's all about this topic. See, the topic includes some terminologies like CBAM, that is Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. See, these kinds of terminologies are directly asked in UPSC prelims, and this is one of the most often typical area where UPSC frames its questions from. So please pay attention to these kinds of terminologies related with some climate protection schemes and also with respect to international relations. So with this, let's move on to our next topic. Look at this article. This news article talks about the monetary policy of RBI. At regular interval, monetary policy will be revised and new inflation targets will be set. But this year's economic survey of 2023 and 2024 makes a new proposal. It suggests that the food prices, which has been a major driver for headline inflation in India, should be excluded from the inflation target set by RBI. This is because inflation in just one particular criterion is keeping the overall inflation high and stopping the RBI from lowering the interest rates, even though other prices are stable. So if food is removed from the basket, RBI will have more flexibility in managing monetary policy. This is what the article is talking about. In this context, let us revise about the difference between the core inflation and the headline inflation. Before that, know that inflation is a gradual loss of purchasing power, reflected in the broad rise in the price of goods and services over a time. Both core inflation and headline inflations are the terms related to inflation. And one more important thing to note here is the topics and the questions based on inflation has been the most frequent area in UPSC prelims and also in main. So please pay attention here. Let's start with the understanding about headline inflation. See, it is a measure of total inflation within an economy. It includes price rise in food, fuel and other commodities. In India, year-on-year percentage changes in a wholesale price index is used as a measure or an indicator for headline inflation. The WPI or the wholesale price index measures the change in the price level of the bulk sale of commodities in the first stage of distribution. And also note that the WPI don't include service sectors. Coming back to the headline inflation, it is a primarily used tool to measure the short-term impact of inflation on the economy. It reflects the impact of inflation on the retail consumers, as most of their income is spent on essential goods such as food and energy. This helps in medium-term to long-term monetary policy formulation. Let's now move on to see about the core inflation. See, the core inflation is also a term used to denote the extent of inflation in an economy. But the core inflation does not consider the inflation contributed by the volatile commodities such as food, energy, etc. This is a concept derived from headline inflation. Since the core inflation subtracts the volatile products from its calculation, it gives a more stable and accurate result. And there is no index for the direct measurement of core inflation. And now it is measured by excluding food and fuel items from the wholesale price index or consumer price index. In other words, core inflation is nothing but headline inflation minus food and fuel inflation. It helps in showing the actual economic status of the country, and it is very helpful in addressing the short-term monetary policy needs. With this, we have come to the end of this topic. With this, let's move on to next topic for the discussion. Our next topic is about digitalization that is being needed in agricultural market. With respect to this article, we are going to cover holistically about the challenges faced in the forward and the backward linkages in the food processing industry in India. See, the questions from food processing industries or forward and backward linkages with respect to agricultural sector has been a most favorite area for UPSC, both mains and prelims. So have a high focus over this topic and please make a note of all the examples and case study we are about to provide. And if you have any problem in recalling these facts and figures, please don't hesitate to watch our video once again. So let's get started. So what is actually a forward linkages mean? See, forward linkages refer to the process and the activities that transform raw agricultural produce into finished goods that are ready for consumption. These linkages connect farmers to the markets, enhancing the value chain. For example, a fruit processing unit supplying a juice to bottling company which then supplies to retailers. It is a perfect example for the forward linkage. A data from the Ministry of Food Processing Industry shows that India's food processing sector has a forward linkage of about 70% with the manufacturing sector, and about 80% of the processed food is being consumed domestically and 20% is exported to countries like US, European Union and Middle East. See, these kinds of data, which are based upon the reports of ministry and other valid government sources, comes very handy in quoting or justifying a point in UPSC mains. So please make a note of this. So with this, let's see the potential of having an efficient forward linkages with respect to food processing units in India. The first and foremost is the employment generation. See, the food processing industry is a significant employment generator, like we all know. According to the Ministry of Food Processing Industry, the sector employed approximately 1.77 million people directly in the year 2020 and 2021, contributing to the both rural and urban employment. The next one is market expansion. The processed food products have a higher shelf life, facilitating the expansion of markets domestically and internationally. For example, the export of processed food items, including dairy products, mango pulp, and ready-to-eat snack, increased by 27% over the years, contributing to the significant increase in foreign exchange earnings. And also, the industry adds a value to agricultural produce. For instance, the value of a processed foods in India was estimated to be about $453 billion in 2020, accounting for about 32% of the country's total food market, according to the Ministry of Food Processing Industry. And also, having an efficient forward linkage in the food processing industry will help us in addressing the demand of convenience good, whose demand has been particularly surged over a period of time. See, the convenience goods are nothing but ready-to-eat products. For example, juice, soft drinks, candy, etc. With this, let us see what actually the backward linkages in food processing industry mean. See, the backward linkages refers to the relationship between food processing industry and their input suppliers. To elaborate on this, let us see an example. See, a dairy processing unit sourcing milk from local farmers who in turn purchase feed and fertilizers actually from the suppliers. See, this show the critical linkages that is happening in the backdrop in the food processing industry. According to the data from Ministry of Food Processing Industry, India's food processing sector has a backward linkage of about 40% with the agricultural sector. And also the 60% of the raw materials are being sourced from the local farmers and 40% are sourced from other states or being imported from other countries. Let us see the potential of having an efficient backward linkages in food processing industry in brief. It has a potential to increase the farm income, as said by Ashok Dalwal Committee. By providing a ready market for the agricultural produce, food processing industry ensure better and more stable income for the farmers. Contract farming arrangements like those by PepsiCo for potatoes and tomatoes provide farmers with assured returns and technical assistance. The next one is technological upgradation. The sector promotes adoption of modern agricultural practices and technology. For example, Nestle's initiatives in Punjab and Haryana have introduced sustainable farming practices, improving crop yields and quality. And it also aids in establishing an efficient supply chain, which aids in reducing the wastage. According to the Niti Aayog India 75 report, India actually accounts about 90,000 crores annually in the post-harvest loss. So, having an effective supply chain will address this concern. With this, let's move on to see the challenges faced by food processing industry in India. See, the challenges in the food processing industry has been a typical area in a UPSC mains. This area has been asked several times in GS paper 3. So please understand this with a pinpoint focus. Now coming back to the topic, see, despite its potential, the food processing sector in India faces several challenges. Let's see them one by one. The first one is fragmented supply chain. See, the agricultural supply chain in India is fragmented and inefficient, leading to high levels of post-harvest losses. The lack of proper storage and transport facilities exacerbates this issue. The next one is inadequate infrastructure. Infrastructural bottlenecks such as inadequate cold storage and warehousing facilities hinder the growth of the sector. According to the Ministry of Food Processing Industry, India needs an additional cold storage capacity of over 30 million tons to meet its demand. The next one is regulatory hurdles. See, the sector is governed by multiple regulations, creating complexity and compliance issues. Harmonizing these regulations and simplifying the approval process can spur the growth in this sector especially. Moving forward, the other bothering reason is the quality and safety standards. See, ensuring adherence to the international quality and safety standard is critical for export. For example, recently, United Kingdom has recalled Indian export of processed rice, citing genetic contamination. However, many small and medium enterprises struggle to comply with these standards due to lack of resources and technical expertise. And one more important thing is these sectors also face difficulties in accessing the finance. The high cost of capital and the stringent lending norms act as a barrier to the investment and expansion. In addition to that, there is a shortage of skilled manpower in food processing sector. Training and the skill development are the essential things to bridge this gap. Finally, the investment in R&D is crucial for innovation and competitiveness. But according to the NITI Aayog India 75 report, India invests less than 0.7% of GDP in R&D, especially in agriculture sector. So, investing in R&D with respect to food processing industries forward and backward linkages, it's very crucial for agricultural economy in India. Moving forward, let us see some of the government initiatives with respect to food processing industry. The Indian government has launched several initiatives such as Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana. See, this scheme aims to create modern infrastructure including mega food parks, integrated cold chain and value addition infrastructure. The next one is Operation Greens. See, it was majorly launched to stabilize the supply of tomato, onions and potato, simply known as top crops. This initiative aims to reduce the price volatility and ensure availability throughout the year. Nextly, the production-linked incentive scheme for the food processing units. It aims to offer financial incentive to the food processing companies to boost production and export. Nextly, the mega food parks. These parks provide a comprehensive infrastructure for the food processing units, helping to reduce wastage and improve value addition. See, the food processing industry in India holds an immense potential to drive economic growth, to enhance farm incomes and generate employment. And also understand one more thing, food processing industry is the only sector where we can integrate primary, secondary and tertiary service sectors. By addressing these challenges and leveraging government initiatives, the sector can significantly contribute to India's goal of becoming a global food processing hub and also aids in doubling the farmers' income as said by Ashok Dalwai Committee. The integration of forward and the backward linkages will ensure a more robust and a resilient food supply chain benefiting all stakeholders in the process. With this, we have come to the end of this discussion. Like I have said, if you have any doubts regarding this topic, which is very crucial for UPSC mains and prelims, please don't hesitate to watch the video, okay? Let's move on to our next topic for the discussion. Look at this article. It is about the data points with respect to economic survey provided in today's newspaper. It actually proposes a model to be included in the union budget in order to address core challenges in Indian economy. So let us look into the model first and then we shall see few of the facts about green bonds. See, the questions regarding union budget or economic survey and even the bond and how the bond market actually works are the prime focus area of UPSC prelims. See, even in the year 2022, questions regarding bonds has been asked. So please make a note on it. So coming back to the topic, see, the two crucial issues faced by the common people is unemployment and inequality in India. To solve unemployment and utilize huge demographic dividend, the government needs to think a long-term and prioritize employment both by actively providing monetary support at budgetary level and incentivizing employment generation in the private sector. On the other hand, to tackle inequality, the government can devise a tax and expenditure policy based on the social, demographic and climate change fronts. Here the article suggests a model named Indian Green Deal. So let us see how it works. See, the IGD or the Indian Green Deal consists of three main concepts. They are green energy, infrastructure and care economy. Care economy is nothing but it focuses on health and education. See, aspirants, a question based on care economy has been asked in UPSC mains GS paper 3. So please understand the topic holistically. So now coming back, see that these components can be financed through a wealth tax imposed on elites in India starting around 1.7%. As you all know, there has been a significant rise in the wealth and income inequality over the past 2 decades. The consumption pattern of Indian elite have also led to increase in the carbon emission. You can see in the chart 1, the carbon footprint of Indian elite has converged with that of the first world citizen. So the basic idea is to tax the elites for their carbon footprint and contribute it to the Indian Green Deal. The data point also suggests that the tax rate could be reduced from 1.7% in 2023 to 1.3% by 2032. This is the line with the projected rise in wealth of Indian elite. Now we shall see about the sovereign green bond in India. A sovereign green bond is a debt instrument with which the capital is being raised to fund green projects, which typically include those relating to renewable energy, clean transportation, sustainable water management, etc. In India, it is regulated by Securities and Exchange Board of India, that is SEBI. The sovereign green bond typically have lower interest rates than the government securities, GSEC, because they align with the sustainable development goals. To ensure the credibility of funded projects, the sovereign green bond must adhere to the internationally recognized green standards and certification process. With this, let us see the benefits of sovereign green bond in brief. See, it is actually a noble initiative because it addresses the emission of greenhouse gases and primarily the carbon emission, and also it aids in India in achieving its climate targets as prescribed in the Climate Agreement of 2015, famously known as the Paris Climate Agreement. Secondly, it aids in the growth of local market. Nextly, it also aids in the significant capital inflows, which actually strengthens the national currency. And more importantly, it has a potential to attract foreign investment in India. So with this, we have covered the topic holistically. This brings us to the end of our first section. With this, let's move on to our next section, that is prelims practice questions. Look at our first question. Consider the following statements. Nipah virus infection is transmitted from animals to humans. The Nipah virus belongs to a new genus termed henipavirus. The symptoms of Nipah virus infection are similar to influenza symptoms. Which of the above statements is correct? Only 1, only 2, 2 and 3, 1, 2 and 3. The correct answer is option D, 1, 2 and 3. See, according to WHO, the Nipah virus infection is a newly emerging zoonosis. That is, a disease transmitted from animals to human. The virus belonging to a new genus termed as henipavirus. The symptoms of Nipah virus are similar to that of influenza because it shows fever, muscle pain and respiratory problems. That's all for this question. Let's move on to our next question. Look at the second question. Which of the following best describes headline inflation? It measures the inflation rate excluding food and energy prices. It includes the overall inflation in the economy, including all goods and services. It only includes the prices of essential commodity. It measures the inflation rate of non-essential luxury items. So the correct answer for this question is option B. It includes the overall inflation in the economy, including all goods and services. Look at our third question. With reference to sovereign green bond, consider the following statements. The funds raised by the green bond are exclusively used for green projects or business. Sovereign green bond is one form of treasury bill. Money raised through green bond is a part of overall government borrowing. Which of the statements given above is correct? 1 only, 2 only, 1 and 3 only, none. The correct answer is option C, 1 and 3 only. See, the statements 1 and 3 are correct because the funds raised by green bond are exclusively used for green projects or business. Money raised through green bonds is actually a part of overall government borrowing. But the statement 2 is incorrect because the sovereign green bond is one form of dated security. Dated or long-term securities are issued for a period above 1 year and up to 40 years. These bonds carry a coupon rate and are tradable in the security market. So with this, let's move on to our next question for the discussion. Under the provision of MGNREGA Act, 100 days of employment in a year to every household whose adult member volunteered to do unskilled manual work has become a fundamental right. Under the provision of the Act, women are to get a priority to the extent that one half of the person who are given employment are women who have asked for help. Which of the statement is correct? 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 nor 2. The correct answer is option D, neither 1 nor 2. See, it is not a fundamental right, but it is a legally backed up act. There is a equal pay for both men and women, and 1/3 of the beneficiary shall be women. There is no such priority. With this, we have come to the end of today's discussion. If you like this video, please hit like, share and subscribe to Shankar IAS Academy YouTube channel. Thank you.